I'm Chelsea Walker, and you are watching Coming to New England. Here today, I am speaking to Candace Fritsche, who will share about her upbringing and her life in New England. Thanks for taking the time to talk with me today.
You're welcome.
When and where were you born?
I was born January 17th, 1968 in Framingham, Massachusetts.
Why did your parents select this name for you?
Well, it's a funny story. My mother was due with me before December, before Christmas of the prior year, and she thought Candy Cane was a cute little nickname, so growing up I was called Candy Cane.
Where did you grow up?
In Bellingham, Massachusetts.
How did your family come to live in Bellingham?
Well, coming to Bellingham, it was close enough to the Rhode Island at the time when my parents bought the house in 1960. And at that time, it was a very easy or cheap, reasonable time to purchase houses. So it was closer to Rhode Island where my parents grew up.
Were there any special things about the house that you remember growing up?
It was always red. My mother was crazy about red. We had this big rock in the yard, and there was a funny memory of my brother. My mother grounded him. I'm the youngest of four actually, three older brothers. The middle boy, he was always the troubled one. He drove the car around the house and drove it off the rock, and that was kind of a funny memory.
What are your parents like?
They're a very loving family. It's kind of hard to see those these days. They're still together after 58 years. They grew up here in Rhode Island. They're just typical family.
Now, of all the things you learned from your parents, what do you feel was the most valuable?
To stay grounded, to be understanding, and to be kind.
Do you feel like they are proud of you?
Absolutely.
Describe some of the personalities of your family members.
Well, they're unique. The oldest brother, he's mentally ill. It's unfortunate he lives in a home. The middle one, he lives in North Carolina. Gotta love him, and lives a simple life. And my other brother, he is always on the go. He's very business orientated and always very on the go.
What was your earliest memory?
I used to twirl. The earliest memory is I twirled batons since the age of 5. I was in a lot of parades.
What world events had the most impact on you while you were growing up, and did they personally affect your family?
I believe the one world event, I wouldn't say it was a world event, but it was definitely worldly to New England. It was the blizzard of '78. I was buried in our house for a week and a half. My father couldn't work, so that affected us financially, and having 4 children to feed, it was a tough time.
To pass the time, what kind of games did you play when you were growing up?
Well, I loved Monopoly, the Game of Life, Connect 4, all the big 80s, 70, 80 games, and of course when Pac-Man came out was my favorite.
Do you remember any fads from your youth, any popular hairstyles, movies, music?
I grew up in the 80s. It was big back then. Big hair, big color, big everything. Go big or go home.
What was school like for you as a child, and where did you attend grade school, high school, and college?
My grade school was at one school. I went from kindergarten to 7th grade. I was at Stallbrook, and it was just a typical elementary school. High school was Bellingham Memorial. I had 4 years in school there. I was in band. I had my selected few friends. It was a good time.
What activities did you do in school, or did you participate in sports?
I was track all 4 years of high school, cross country, winter and spring. My senior year, I decided I didn't want to run no more, so I decided to do shot put and disc. I was also in band, chorus, majorettes. I was pretty active.
Now, are there any stories about any famous or infamous relatives in your family?
I have a few. On my father's side, the family came over with Roger Williams, who settled in Rhode Island. The Stutley Westcotts is part of our family. Also, one of my oldest ancestors, which I was told growing up, his name is John Chapman, and otherwise known as Johnny Appleseed. He went across this country planting apple trees to just fruit the whole country, I guess, but he is an ancestor of mine.
What is the name of your spouse?
His name is Paul.
How did you meet him, and what did you do on dates?
Well, we met through mutual friends, and on the 3rd time we got together, he asked me out. We decided to go for coffee. We kind of went on our coffee dates.
What was it like when you were proposed to, and when and where did it happen?
He proposed to me in our garage. Just looked over at me and said, "Hey, you want to get married?" I said, "Hey, okay."
How did you feel?
I felt pretty good. It was nice to finally found true love.
When and where did you get married?
We got married at the Blessed Sacrament, right down the street from Rhode Island College in Providence.
When did you get married? What day?
September 20th, 2008.
What memory stands out the most from your wedding day, and how would you describe your spouse?
My spouse is awesome. This is the best way to do it. He loves me, he's honest, he's caring, and what stands out on the wedding day is that he was down at the end of the aisle, and it was just the happiest day of my life.
Now, what do you admire about him?
Everything. His integrity.
What do you believe is the key to a successful marriage?
Communications and trust.
How did you find out you were going to be a parent for the first time?
I wasn't feeling very well with you. I'm going to be honest. When I found out I was pregnant with you, it wasn't fun. I actually had 9 months of very illness. I almost died having you, but you are a blessing.
Do you have any other children as well?
I do. With marrying Paul, I gained 2 children. I have a son and a daughter. And they're wonderful, and I have 2 beautiful grandboys.
Why did you choose your child's name?
Well, it's funny, when I was pregnant with you, there's a city in Massachusetts called Chelsea, Mass, which I love to see. It was a beautiful city. And also, there was a show on called Major Dad, and one of the actresses' name was Chelsea, and I just thought it fit very nicely.
What was your proudest moment of being a parent?
Just watching you grow up to be a beautiful young woman.
How is the world today different from what it was like when you were a child?
Big difference. There's the violence, the bullying, they were nothing like they are today. Kids didn't bring guns into school. We had nunchucks, we had fists. They fought it out in the playground. They don't bring guns to school anymore. Back then they didn't. It was a simpler time.
How would you define the American dream?
My definition of the American dream is just to be happy. Not only be happy with thyself, be happy with your family, because family is all that matters.
I would like to thank Candace for taking the time to talk with me today, and thank you for watching Coming to New England. I'm Chelsea Walker. Have a great day.